The wind came down hard that night, carrying snow in tight spirals across empty pavement. It was the kind of cold that made metal ache and breath hang visible in the air long after exhaling. The street lamp at the corner of Maple and 6th flickered once, twice, then held steady, casting a pale yellow cone over the curb where something small and dark lay motionless. At first he almost didn't stop. Long shifts had a way of narrowing the world down to the next warm room, the next cup of coffee. But headlights caught the shape just right as he slowed for the turn, and something in the stillness of it pulled at him. He cut the engine and stepped out into the bite of winter air, collar turned up, boots crunching through frost. It looked like a kitten at first glance, tiny, curled in on itself, fur matted with ice. He crouched low, gloved hands hovering, unsure if touching would do more harm than good. Then he saw the ears, tufted, pointed, too sharp for any barn cat. The markings came next. Spots, stripes, a coat built for something wilder than alleyways and back porches. His breath caught. This wasn't a stray, this was a bobcat. A kitten, yes, but not the kind that showed up crying at screen doors. He didn't think. He pulled off his coat, wrapped the frozen body inside, and ran. Morning came soft through the kitchen window, pale light stretching across linoleum. The man woke slumped in a chair, neck stiff, one hand still resting near the heating pad. He blinked awake slowly, then froze. Milo was wrapped completely around the bobcat. Body curved, like a crescent moon, front paws tucked under the kitten's chin, his purr, a low, steady hum that filled the quiet room. The bobcat was breathing stronger now. Its tiny ribcage rose and fell with purpose. One spotted paw stretched out, claws flexing, then relaxed again. The man sat up carefully, not wanting to disturb them. He'd planned to call a wildlife center that morning, had the number saved in his phone. But watching them now, the way Milo's ears swiveled at every small sound the bobcat made, the way the wild kitten leaned into that warmth, like it was the only thing tethering it to life, calling felt impossible. The days blurred together in strange, unexpected ways. Milo became something the man had never seen before, a mother, a guardian, a constant presence hovering over the bobcat, like a shadow made of devotion. When the kitten cried, Milo meowed back, loud and insistent, pacing until the man brought formula. When it tried to stand on wobbly legs, Milo circled it protectively, nudging it upright. When it stumbled, the man tried separating them once, put the bobcat in a large crate for safety while he cleaned. Milo sat outside the door and yapped mournful sounds that echoed through the house, until the man gave in and opened it again. Within seconds, Milo was back inside, grooming, purring, curling around the kitten like nothing had changed. The bobcat grew fast, faster than the man expected. Within 2 weeks, it was eating solid food, teething on table legs, climbing onto counters with alarming ease. Milo taught it things: how to slow blinking greeting, how to head bump for affection, how to play without claws fully extended. But the wild was there too, unmistakable. The way it stalked shadows across the floor, the precision of its pounce, the wildness in its eyes when it stared out the window at birds. The man watched them together, house cat and bobcat, domestic and wild, two creatures who shouldn't have fit, but somehow did, and felt something shift inside him. This wasn't temporary anymore. It had stopped being temporary the moment Milo chose to stay. He didn't know what came next. Didn't know if what he was doing was right, or reckless, or something in between. But he knew one thing with absolute certainty. Whatever this bond was, it was real. And breaking it would cost something neither of them could afford to lose. Ready for Act 3, when you are. Should it also be 400, 500 words, or return to 900, 1000? The house was small and warm, the kind of place that smelled like old wood and worn furniture. He cleared the kitchen table in one sweep, laying the bundle down under the pendant light. The bobcat didn't move. Its chest rose and fell in shallow, uneven pulls. Hypothermia, maybe worse. He grabbed towels from the linen closet, a heating pad from the bedroom, anything soft and warm he could find. His hands moved fast, but his mind moved faster, wondering if this was already too late, if he'd just brought something home to watch it die. He worked through the night, slow warming, no sudden heat. That's what the internet said. Pulled up on a phone balanced against a coffee mug. Rub the limbs gently, keep the airways clear. watch for breathing changes. He did it all, methodical and silent, the house ticking around him like a clock no one had wound in years. Somewhere past midnight, the bobcat's eyes cracked open, cloudy, unfocused, but open. It made a sound, not a meow, something lower, quieter, a sound that didn't belong in a kitchen. He exhaled for what felt like the first time in hours. Just tonight, he whispered, more to himself than the animal. Just get you stable, then someone who knows what they're doing takes over. But the house had other ideas. Milo appeared in the doorway without warning, the way cats do, silent, curious, unbothered by human panic. He was a grey tabby, 8 years old, with a white bib, and the kind of round face that made strangers smile. Not a fighter, not a hunter. The kind of cat that napped in sunbeams and purred at the sound of can openers. The man looked up, suddenly aware of how dangerous this could be. Bobcats were predators, even kittens, even half-frozen ones. And Milo was soft, trusting, vulnerable in ways that made the man's chest tighten. "Stay back," he said quietly, one hand raised. Milo ignored him. He padded across the tile, ears forward, tail upright. The bobcat's head lifted slightly, nose twitching. For a moment, they simply stared at each other, two animals separated by instinct and evolution, sizing each other up under fluorescent light. Then Milo stepped closer. The man held his breath. Milo sniffed the bobcat's face, once, twice, then slowly, deliberately, he began to groom the frozen ears, long careful strokes of his tongue. The bobcat didn't pull away. It leaned in, just barely, like it remembered something it had lost. The man sat back on his heels, stunned into silence. He'd raised Milo from a kitten. He knew this cat, knew his moods, his quirks, the way he hissed at the neighbor's dog, and fled from loud noises. This wasn't Milo, or maybe it was, some deeper part of him, the man had never seen, some instinct that didn't care about species or survival, only warmth and need. Minutes passed. Milo kept grooming. The bobcat's breathing steadied, chest rising and falling in rhythm now, eyes half closed. The man watched, unable to move, unable to look away. Outside, the wind howled against the windows. Inside, two creatures who should have been strangers, curled into each other like they'd always known. This moment was coming. He stayed up the rest of the night, keeping watch. But he wasn't watching the bobcat anymore. He was watching Milo. This small, ordinary house cat, who'd just walked into a wild animal's space and chosen love over fear. And somewhere in the back of his mind, a question began to form. Not the kind with easy answers, not the kind you ask out loud. Why would a cat, built for safety, routine, the predictable rhythm of domestic life, look at a predator and see family? The bobcat's paw twitched in sleep. Milo's tail curled around it. The man didn't have an answer, but he knew, even then, that this was only the beginning. Spring arrived early, bringing longer days and restless energy. The bobcat had outgrown the kitchen. Its legs were longer now, muscles lean and defined beneath spotted fur. When it played with Milo, the difference was stark. Power versus gentleness, instinct versus learned behavior. Yet Milo never flinched, never backed down. He'd pin the bobcat's head with one paw, groom its ears roughly, then dart away when the chase began again. But the man saw what Milo couldn't. The way the bobcat's gaze lingered on the windows. The way it tested its strength against furniture, claws scoring deep marks into wood. The way it moved, low, focused, reading the room like prey, might bolt from any corner. He made the call he'd been avoiding for weeks. The woman from the wildlife center was kind but direct. "He's healthy," she said after reviewing the photos. "Strong enough for transitioning. We can help with soft release protocols. Get him back where he belongs. Where he belongs." The words sat heavy in the man's chest. He built an enclosure in the backyard, large, with climbing platforms and hiding spaces, open to sky and wind. The bobcat explored it immediately, leaping, stalking insects through the grass, scent marking corners, with focused intent. It was thriving, anyone could see that. But every evening, as the sun dropped low and shadows stretched long across the yard, the bobcat would stop, press its face against the glass door, stare inside, at Milo. Milo would sit on the other side, tail wrapped around his paws, eyes locked on the wild kitten he'd raised. Sometimes they'd stay like that for an hour, not moving, just watching each other through a barrier. Neither of them understood. The man stood in the kitchen one night, coffee gone cold in his hand, and felt the weight of the decision crushing down. Returning the bobcat to the wild was the right thing, the ethical thing. It deserved a life beyond walls and routines, beyond the safety that would eventually become a cage. But Milo didn't understand ethics. He only understood loss, and the bobcat, growing stronger, wilder, more capable every day, still came to that door, looking for the one creature who'd chosen him when the world had left him freezing under a street lamp. The man set the coffee down, pressed his palms flat against the counter. The choice had always been inevitable. He'd known that from the beginning, but knowing something and accepting it was separated by a distance that felt impossible to cross. Outside, the bobcat called, a sound caught between wildness and longing. Inside, Milo answered, and the man realized love didn't make choices easier. It only made them matter more. The morning came quietly, without ceremony. The wildlife team arrived at dawn, their voices low and professional. The bobcat moved into the transport crate without resistance, as if some part of him already understood. Milo watched from the porch, unmoving, ears flat against his head. The man followed the team to the release site, a stretch of forest thick with oak and pine, far enough from roads, but close enough to monitor. They opened the crate. The bobcat stepped out cautiously, testing the ground, the air, the freedom that had always been his birthright. He looked back once, just once, then disappeared into the undergrowth without a sound. The man drove home in silence. The house felt wrong after that, too quiet, too empty. Milo wandered from room to room, crying softly, sounds the man had never heard him make before. He'd stop at the glass door, stare into the yard where the enclosure still stood, then walk away again. The pattern repeated for days. The man worried he'd made a terrible mistake, that he'd broken something that couldn't be repaired. 3 weeks passed, then 4. The man checked the trail camera he'd mounted near the tree line, a habit born from hope more than expectation. Most of the footage was unremarkable. Deer, raccoons, the occasional fox moving through at dusk. Then he saw it, the bobcat, fully grown now, coat gleaming in the infrared glow, body thick with muscle and confidence. He stood at the edge of the clearing, staring directly toward the house, not moving, just watching. The timestamp read 11:47 p.m. The man's hand trembled as he scrolled forward. The audio kicked in, faint but unmistakable. 2 soft vocalizations from the bobcat, not aggressive, not alarmed, familiar, and beneath them, barely audible, Milo's answering cry from somewhere inside the house. That night, the man opened the back door. Milo stepped onto the porch immediately, as if he'd been waiting for permission. The bobcat emerged from the shadows slowly, each step deliberate. He didn't come all the way, didn't cross into the yard, but he moved close enough, just close enough, for Milo to stretch forward and touch noses through the distance between them. They stayed like that for a long moment, wild and domestic, predator and companion. 2 creatures who'd saved each other in ways neither could fully understand. Then the bobcat turned and melted back into the trees. Milo sat on the porch for a while longer, watching the place where his friend had disappeared. Then he walked back inside, curled up in his usual spot, and closed his eyes. The man stood in the doorway, throat tight. The bobcat had stayed only one night, but the bond they'd built would last a lifetime.